Madam President, as you know, we have been hearing a whole lot recently about the inability of our nation's elected officials to come together on a balanced and bipartisan budget deal. Here in Washington, D.C., this issue is often viewed through the prism of partisanship and political point scoring. The conversation and the coverage are very focused on the moment that we are in, this debate, the next few weeks, the next year. But for families who are sitting around their tables and in communities across America, this issue is about a lot more than that. It's about their lives and their futures, and it's about tough questions too many of them have to ask themselves every day. Will they be able to afford to stay in their home? Will they get the support they need to get skills and get back on a job? Are they going to be able to send their kids to college or go to the doctor when they get sick? Is Medicare going to be there for their parents or for them or for their children? Are their taxes going to go up next year? Those are the questions they are asking, and they want their elected officials to come together around real answers and real solutions and smart policies that work for families like theirs. Madam President, these are the people that I'm fighting for as we work towards a balanced and bipartisan deal in this lame duck session of Congress. Those are the questions I feel very strongly that we need to be answering. That's why I'm absolutely focused on making sure any deal we make over the next few weeks works for middle-class families and for our seniors and for our country. And it's why I've been very clear that I will not sign on to a deal that throws the burden of deficit reduction right onto the backs of families and communities who have already sacrificed so much. Madam President, as co-chair of the Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction last year, I made it very clear Democrats were willing to compromise. We were willing to make some tough concessions, but only in the context of a balanced and fair deal that called on the wealthy to pay their fair share as well. As we all know, Republicans didn't just refuse to meet us halfway then, they wouldn't even step out of their corner. They insisted that seniors in the middle class feel all of the pain of that deal, and that the wealthiest Americans, millionaires and billionaires, were protected from paying a single penny more in taxes. Well, Democrats rejected that deeply unfair approach, and we decided to keep fighting for the middle class rather than roll over and let Republicans lock in new giveaways to the rich and major cuts to programs our families depend on. And then we made our case to the American people. We built our campaigns from the top to the bottom around the idea that budgets need to work for our middle class and that the wealthy need to pay their fair share. The Republican approach, the Ryan budget plan, was literally on the ballot. And Romney and Ryan and other Republicans were not shy about telling the American people they didn't think the rich should pay a penny more in taxes in this deal. Well, not only did Democrats win races across the country, but in exit polling, it was clear that the vast majority of Americans supported our approach to deficit reduction, a balanced approach, an approach that cuts spending responsibly, but also calls on the wealthy to pay their fair share. Madam President, voters spoke pretty clearly in this election, and they stood behind Democrats to fight for a budget deal that works for middle class. And we are hearing encouraging words from some of our Republican colleagues who have indicated a willingness to put revenue on the table and to break that stranglehold that D.C. lobbyist Grover Norquist has on the modern Republican Party. One of my Republican Senate colleagues said, Republicans should put revenue on the table. We don't generate enough revenue. And he said he would not be beholden to the Norquist pledge. Another said, the world has changed and the economic situation is different. Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill realized that in the 1980s. I think everything should be on the table. Another said, I'm not obligated on the pledge. The only thing I'm honoring is the oath that I take when I serve, when I'm sworn in January. And another Republican senator recently said, I care more about my country than I do about a 20-year-old pledge. If we do it his way, then we'll continue in debt. Well, of course, Grover Norquist is fighting back. He called those statements by my Republican colleagues impure thoughts. He called one of them a weasel. He is used to blind allegiance from the Republican Party, and he's not going to take this lying down. But I am hopeful that more and more Republicans will break away from Grover Norquist and that they will actually follow up on their new rhetoric with a genuine willingness to help us call on the wealthy to pay their fair share. And it should be easy for them because the Senate actually has already passed a bill to do that, and in a way that works for our middle class. The Senate passed a bill that would extend the tax cuts for 98% of our workers and 97% of small business owners, and just let the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans expire as scheduled. We have sent that bill over to the House now. The President said he would sign it. All House Republicans have to do is pass that bill, and a significant chunk of the fiscal cliff will disappear for the middle class. When that's done, we will then continue a serious conversation we need to have about our country's budget future. But there is no reason why middle-class families should have to go into the holidays not knowing if their taxes are going to go up. Democrats and Republicans both agree the middle class should have their tax cuts extended. So there is no reason why the House should continue holding that bill and the middle class hostage. And by the way, one conservative Republican in the House agrees. Representative Tom Cole of Oklahoma told his colleagues and reporters yesterday, and I want to quote him, he said, "The first thing I do is make sure we don't raise taxes on 98% of the American people." He said that was, quote, "the right thing to do," and that where there is common ground, we should seize that common ground. Well, Madam President, I applaud Representative Cole for that common sense and brave position. I'm hopeful that he can persuade other Republicans to do the right thing for our families and small business owners and communities across the country who have so much at stake and who are looking to us to solve this problem. I'm hopeful they will join Senate Democrats and pass that middle-class tax cut. And I'm confident that once we move forward on that bill, then both sides will sit down and listen to the American people, allow the wealthy to pay more, and then focus on the questions that families are asking about: our budget, our priorities, our fiscal health, and the future of the nation.